presenting me, and thank you all of you who organized this meeting, this seminar, and Naurin for inviting me first, because we met last year here in Almaty. I would like to start from my presentation, because we don't have a lot of time for discussing it, and I have prepared a lot of slides, because when you write a paper, you dedicate a lot of time to it and want to tell everything about your work, about these findings, results, and so on. Let me share the presentation. And the paper is dedicated to gender stereotypes about managers, and it's a comparative study between Central Eastern Europe and Kazakhstan or Central Asia. This paper has been published in the Journal of East European Management Studies in the special issue dedicated to women in management and in Central Eastern European countries. And it's a co-authored paper with Dr. Zoltan Buzadi, who is a flow and leadership expert. And brief description what the paper is dedicated to. This article investigates gender stereotypes about managers across post-socialist emerging geographic region that is very diverse, however, with similar characteristics, such as high human development index and post-socialist history, shift to their liberalized market economy. However, this space lacks due research, nor in Central Eastern Europe, neither in Kazakhstan we have enough research about gender stereotypes about managers. And the research, the comparative research of this region is almost zero. And 6 countries of Central Eastern Europe are embraced. They are Bulgaria, Czechia, Hungary, Poland, Romania, Slovakia, and Kazakhstan. We did not conduct a survey in Hungary. We used the previous research in which my co-author, Dr. Zoltan Buzadi, participated. And that research was dedicated to how well managers or management in Central Eastern Europe compete globally. A part of that research was focused on gender stereotypes, and we took this extract to apply in our country. Why Central Eastern Europe and Central Asia is an interesting region, and why it should be studied or should be researched. ILO considers that female potential in this region is significant, but actually lacks due attention. The number of women managers grows, but it does not influence the situation significantly, as the majority of female managers function at the low or medium level in organizations. It's a big labyrinth of barriers, of gender barriers for women in the region. One of the most significant barriers are cultural norms and expectations of the society from women that hinder female progress to senior positions. And an interesting fact that women in the region have to satisfy several, sometimes even contradictory, cultural and societal norms. They are remnants of socialist mindset, the growing Europeanization or Westernization, and reviving of traditionalism in the region. These are the reasons why we decided to study this issue. Several arguments in the favor of our decision. Among the holders of tertiary education, the gender gap is higher than among the lower educated workers. This means that better educated women do not have opportunities to apply their knowledge in their careers and occupy better positions, notwithstanding of their good educational preparation. Female hyper-representation in the labor force on the rather gender-segregated labor market. Yes, females are highly represented in the labor market. However, they mostly occupy positions in such industries that we call female industries, where they are paid less than in other ones. They are medicine, education, different kinds of social service. Sometimes it's trade. So another reason that the gender pay gap among women managers is very high, particularly in Kazakhstan. If you occupy a position that is just a general position in the organization, you are paid, you have a gender gap at the amount of 31–32%. If you are a manager of the middle level, you are paid less by 38%. And if you're a top manager, the gender gap is enormous, and it constitutes above 50%. So the government does not pay their attention to this fact. And we can see the different activities of our government to help women, but in low-paid jobs. Women managers, they are ignored by our decision makers. As I'm also a part of the civil organization of NGO, I do my best to promote or disseminate results of my findings or research findings made by my colleagues, and bring this information to the governors. Being a part of the working groups at the Ministry of Labor and Social Protection, and at part or a member of the working group at the Majlis of Kazakhstani Parliament, I try to make this research visible for our decision makers who solve different kinds of Kazakhstani problems. As for the theoretical framework, it's very important to consider gender issues within gender politics, because gender stereotypes, they do not exist without people. They do not exist without power. They do not exist without some political situation and some political ideology that takes place in one or another country. And when we study gender stereotypes, of course, we should study the not only cultural and social issues, but also political and economic challenges in those countries. That's why, following Megaran and Johnson and Robinson, who contributed to the theory of gender stereotypes in Central Asia, we assume critically important to consider gender stereotypes about managers in the studied region in the context of gender neo-traditionalism. It's the concept that has been developed by CE researchers from political notion of neo-traditionalism, the deliberate revival and revamping of old cultures, practices, and institutions for use in new political contexts and strategies. And what does it mean? The gender neo-traditionalism assumes an ideology bolstered by a resurgent nostalgia and confine women to home. The literature review showed us that Kazakhstan is a part of Central Asia, and Central Eastern European countries have a common characteristics that is connected with the mothers, with the women position as mothers. In both of these parts of the Baltic Sea and CA, mothers play a crucial role in the gender ideology. So we considered women's positions and images under socialism, because the previous history also contributed to what we have now. We also looked at transformation of gender stereotypes in newly emerging economies. So what has been changed since the Soviet times? And westernization, influence of westernization and CE and in Kazakhstan, if it takes place And if yes, how it influences women's positions in decision-making posts. So to tell briefly about this, I would like to focus on the results of the literature review, because literature review was very big. We had to study the literature from Central and East European researchers, about 6 countries, and then to study the same information about the Kazakhstan and Central Asia. So now I will tell only about some most important findings of ours. First of all, we tried to fine-tune the Western ideas or Western concepts, the Western theories that are well known, the theory of social role developed by Eagley and Wood, and the other theory developed also by Eagley and Karau in role, that is the role congruity theory. One of these theory adds another one. Social role theory says us that labor segregation that takes place at home influences the labor segregation in the labor market. It influences understanding of prototypes of people who occupy a different kind of positions, particularly managerial positions, leadership positions in the companies. And the social role theory assumes that women are mothers and caregivers who care of their families and spend a lot of time in their households. And males, they are breadwinners, and they provide families with income. This is our key theory that is very important both for Western world and for Kazakhstan and for the Central Eastern Europe. And role congruity theory says us that the division of gender roles constrained by socioeconomic development of certain societies, it reflects in understanding of people, what women should do and what men should do. But these theories are not enough for Kazakhstan, not enough for Central Asia to understand the gender stereotypes about leaders in Kazakhstan and in Central Eastern Europe, because this region still is influenced by past socialist norms and by history that was before the socialist times. So the conducted historical and literature review has facilitated identifying common trends about gender stereotypes in societies under transformation. The socialist times influenced sometimes well, sometimes not, upon the women's positions. For example, emancipation in the Soviet times was enormous, yes, and women, they got rights to vote, they got rights to participate in the labor market. Their participation was very great, and their education was great in CE and CA in this region. And now what we see that after the Soviet times, upon obtaining the independence, still women in the region are well educated, and a Human Development Index and different kinds of ratings say us about this. Yes, the education of females in the region is one of the highest in the world. But notwithstanding, the labor market segregation is very, very high, and women are concentrated in low-paid industries. And are unable still to occupy high posts. And the first similarity is the high level of education. The second, that gender labor segregation is significant and has a negative trend, a negative growth or increasing trend, unfortunately, to the moment. This year and the years before. Another is that the women's family role as a primary designation and CE and CA is much more rarely pronounced, for example, in the US and Western European contemporary studies. And the mother's role we found important in every research and CE and CA that was connected with images of women was penetrated by the topic of motherhood and caregiver. So it really a differentiation or a difference with the Western discourse. And what is the difference between the CE and CA? Of course, it's that differences of gender stereotypes about women leaders across Christian and Muslim cultures have also been studied by us, and they are justified by several researchers that you see in the slide. And the existing research of Kazakhs and Russian gender stereotypes about leaders defines the most significant influence of traditions on Kazakh respondents' attitudes comparatively to Russian respondents. The gap in the research that I previously mentioned is also influenced by the situation in which we have a lot of researchers within Kazakhstan or within Central Asia who do not speak English and do not publish their works in English. We have a lot of good publications in local journals, but people who do not speak local languages, in such as Central European languages or Kazakh or Russian language, they do not have an access to this. And vice versa, locals do not have an access to the knowledge that was developed by foreign researchers. This issue was identified and was underlined by Kemp in 2009 when she dedicated the whole book or the whole book of essays about Central Asia and called it "Are We Talking to One Another?" She emphasized this challenge that foreign researchers cannot understand locals and locals do not understand foreigners. And now I think this meeting today and what you do actually very positively contributes to the bridge between local researchers and international researchers. Given the basement for developing better theoretical concepts that we need them a lot, because at the moment gender stereotypes we can see the gender stereotypes as a part of the Western world, and especially gender stereotypes about managers. We think that the same theory could be used here without any adaptation, and this theory is disseminated, and people in companies, they apply this and ignore some local specificity. So we also try to contribute not only to their some practical findings, but also to contribute to the conceptual understanding of the issues. The hypothesis of the research is as follows. Based on the existing empirical and theoretical evidence, we hypothesize the following. Kazakhstanis have stronger gender stereotypes about managers compared to the CE countries, engendered by their traditional values and norms of the Muslim culture. Of course, neo-traditionalism influences, and we should clearly see that in Kazakhstan, women are very different and men are very different. We have very advanced feminists who see their lives in another way, and we see people who attached to the previous cultural traditions. So the society in Kazakhstan, we can't say that it's very homogeneous. It's not a homogeneous society. We do not have a common vision about women in Kazakhstan. And when we make, of course, or conduct research, we can see very different views about women in Kazakhstan. The method of the research was a quantitative, it was a survey, and 551 respondents participated. the mean age of 38. They were inhabitants of Nur-Sultan, Almaty, and Karaganda, and almost equally males and females. It was very important to have almost equal strata. Why? Because usually, as a rule in the research, females have more positive views about women managers than males. So it's critically important to have almost equal number of males and females participants. And you see that the largest ethnicities participated, Kazakhs and Russians, in the study. Some information or details about the method. This research instrument was adopted and translated into Russian from the CU survey. And it represented a questionnaire consisted of two parts. The first asked for the respondents' social demographic details, and in the second, respondents expressed their level of agreement with a specified statement. For this, we used the Likert scale based on end labeling and numerical values. How it worked, what was the procedure? Three people were asking the passers to express their level of agreement on the following statement. The statement was adopted from the CEU survey. On the whole, women tend to be more effective managers than their male counterparts, and they were asked about this in the main streets of the mentioned cities during the whole week at different times. The study utilized both primary data that were obtained by us and secondary data from the CE survey. And about the findings. So our hypothesis was supported because at this stage we see partially supported, because here we can see only differences between Kazakhstanis and CE respondents. And Kazakhstan's level of agreement equals to 49%, while CE respondents' agreement is higher by 15%. So they are by 15% agree with the statement that women could be more effective managers than their male counterparts. We consider that discrepancy between Kazakhstanis and European respondents of 15 represents a significant difference in views of women managers. In general, CEU countries, if we consider the average, express their agreement with the statement, and Kazakhstanis disagreement. In this slide, you see a part of the findings that is dedicated to the countries of CE, disaggregation by the countries: Slovakia, Romania, Poland, Kazakhstan, Hungary, Czechia, and Bulgaria, and the level of agreement or disagreement of the respondents with the statement. And when we compare these results, we see much more details. For example, Czechia and Poland are not so far from Kazakhstan, as Kazakhstan respondents on average have 49%, and their respondents have 53 or 55%. But the general discrepancy of the CEU average is more prominent. It's worth to emphasize the noticeable differences within the CEU sample. We see that there are also discrepancies between the CEU countries. Some countries are more favorable, have more favorable vision of women managers than others. For example, more positive opinions we can see in Bulgaria and Romania, medium in Hungary and Slovakia, and less positive in Czechia and Poland. And rather similar distribution of answers intensity along the continuum of agreement scale is observed between Poland and Kazakhstan, Romania and Bulgaria, Hungary and Slovakia. And the last finding of ours, that disaggregated data of the Kazakhstan sample by ethnic groups demonstrate some discrepancy in the responses between the Kazakh respondents and Russian respondents. Along the whole continuum, Russian respondents expressed slightly stronger agreement with the statement compared to Kazakhs. 16% versus 13% of strong agreement, 13% versus 11% of medium agreement, and 28 versus 23% of frontier agreement. The general agreement of Kazakhs constitutes 47%, of Russians 57, with a difference in 10%. Disaggregation also allowed revealing the proximity of these sample with the Slavic and Polish ones. What are our conclusions and what are our statements in the discussion? I just took several of them. The outlay of the socialist legacy in the form of considerable gender segregation, education and occupations, and the status of working mothers, double burdened with the family and work, still hangs over our region, over Central Eastern Europe and CA. So we do not see any significant breakthrough after the collapse of the USSR, that our women now have opportunities to occupy better positions in the organizations. The same high level of education that does not coincide with those opportunities women have. The introduction of new ideologies has not led to the elimination of the socialist soft spots, but overbuilt additional barriers for women managers through retraditionalization. We see that now the gender ideology and gender politics tries to find the best version, how to make the image of a woman in Kazakhstan multidimensional. They want to see from women such an ideal woman who is able to be a mother of many children, who can be a person with a professional career, or even an entrepreneur who provides workplaces for others, jobs for others. They would like to see a person who is able to take care of the household, and the person who has the characteristics of Western women. So until we have such a contradictory requirements to women in Central Eastern Europe and Central Asia, we will have a lot of challenges that women need to cope with, and no one cares of this. When we see movies, Kazakhstani movies, we see an image of an ideal woman who is able to be everything in one. But actually, we propose the idea that every woman in Kazakhstan should be able to choose herself what role to place in the society, what place to occupy, to be a mother or not to be a mother, to be an ideal woman or to be a woman that she wants to be. So some more discussion section here. The current study supports the idea that gender stereotypes, variations in gender stereotypes, depending on culture and the influence of ethnicity, they influence on prejudice towards women. So variations can be different depending on some cultural differences and depending on the ethnicity. Yes, we have some research that does not support our ideas, but as every research or as every study, we have different visions and we are limited to some conditions. Despite being citizens of one country and undergoing the same political, social, and economic processes, Russians have more similar gender stereotypes with the CU average. This fact corresponds with the preceding studies about gender stereotypes between Kazakhs and Russians. Here you see the research of Benderson, Nurisheva, Vitalieva, Kuzhabekova, Almuhambetova. Yes, not all of them, they studied women managers because we left this research, but they studied gender stereotypes about women in academia. about women in political posts. And we did not research this topic, but commonalities between Russian, Polish, and Slavic responses are presumably connected with their belonging to the Slav ethnic group. And this actually requires further research and was not covered by us. We think that the theoretical value of this study lies in the attempt to shed light on highly promising but still neglected topic of gender stereotypes about managers in the newly emerging region. And we tried to bring together ideas originated both in Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia. And we studied works not only published in the best index journals, but we also studied papers of locals in local languages, in Kazakh, in Russian, and we did our best to find papers in a CU country of those who do not publish in the international journals. So the phenomena of the refamiliarized post-socialist context that was developed in CE and the triple trap suggested by Kuzhabekova and Elmukhambetova for women leaders, along with the gender neo-traditionalism concept, contribute to the more conceptualized explanation of stereotypes about women managers in this region. So today, women in Central Asia are prisoners of the family cage, artificially constructed by gender stereotypes incorporated in all fields of private and public life. The continuous interconnection of women and family in legislative documents, as we see that the main concept of Kazakhstan is called family and gender politics. Family and gender policy, it also brings together two fields and emphasize the gender stereotypes about women's main role as a family care. I think that it should be reconsideration of gender policies. And we think that it's required to separate gender and family as two interconnected but different directions. And particularly state gender policies of Kazakhstan should provide a better differentiation between the family discourse and women involvement in management. So now we see in the government that I think there is a actually great progress. Now I'm the part of the working group on gender and family policy, on reconsideration of the legislation in this field. And as a part of the academia and civil society, I was invited in this group, and I really try to bring this knowledge to decision makers and to make some changes that can improve women managers' position in the region. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I'm sure you have some questions because I was not able to embrace the whole topic and the whole paper. Here you see some references, and I'm also grateful to their gender scholars and gender researchers at Nazarbayev University, because you see I used their works in this paper, and they helped me to have a more clear vision of the challenge and to have an initial basement for the work.
Thank you so much, Anastassiya. You have brought to our attention highlighted key issues, right? That before we all came together, we had a little bit of a chat in advance, right? About how these topics are a worldwide phenomenon, right? That women are not progressing through pipelines, whether academic or managerial, and highlighting it in the way that you have and showing just your robust research. Really appreciate your work. I don't want to speak too much. We have about 10 minutes, right? So I want to open it up to the rest of you. We can also I'm happy to keep the room open after 3 o'clock as well, 3 o'clock Kazakhstan time, for other people that would like to stay and have a conversation as well. So who might have a comment or question for Anastassiya? And feel free to type it or raise, great, Marilyn, I see your hand. You're muted, Marilyn.
Thank you. It was really very, very interesting. I have two questions, and without giving a lot of background, let me just throw them out. The first one is, so you personally are able to make an impact. You say you're part of this working group, but I've been experiencing, I'm more involved with people that have disabilities, and I'm very interested in, promoting accessibility and visibility, et cetera, for people with disabilities, which is another whole issue. But the people that I encounter in the disability movements, they're saying if we make any noise, if we raise any issues, we just get pushed down and everything. So I'm wondering, where are the, let's say, weak points or the soft points, let's say, where you can make an impact? And is there any, you could say, concerted effort to push back, push down the women that are trying to raise their voice, such as you? And then a second related question is, you mentioned the connection between legislative documents and women as mother carers. And I wanted to know what you think about the 3-year maternity leave policy in Kazakhstan, which is amazing. I've never seen a country that had 3-year maternity leave, which is fantastic in terms of childhood, education. But it seems like that 3-year, if women that take advantage of the 3 years are going to lose, they're going to lose momentum on their professional track. So if you could respond to those things, thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thank you. Let me start with the second first, with the second question, and with the second answer for this. Yes, we have good conditions about 3-year maternity leave in Kazakhstan, and some of us we use this opportunity. But in the same time, you are right that we can lose a career track, and we actually lose it. Those who want to be with their children, we lose the career track, we lose career opportunities. In Kazakhstan, in accordance with the legislation, our spouses, males, they have an opportunity, legislative opportunity, to take a paternity leave in Kazakhstan. But the issue is because of gender stereotypes, they don't use this opportunity. It's a very small percent of males who actually take this paternity leave and give a chance to their wives continue their career. And I talked about this to the Vice Minister of Labor and Social Protection in Kazakhstan, and in one of the meetings I approached him, because I don't only protect women's rights, I protect, I'm like a person who protects human rights. And I approached him and asked, what can we do with gender stereotypes that prevent males from taking this opportunity, because their bosses, very often their bosses, even in state organizations, their bosses say, yes, we have this opportunity, but please, my subordinate, don't use this chance, because I think it's shame on you to be a person in a paternity leave. And the Vice Minister said, yes, we will work on this issue, and we will consider what can be done. And nearly I sent some recommendations again to the ministry about such kind of a decision. If my memory serves me right, in Switzerland, they have an opportunity to share the maternity and paternity leave. And if you share this leave equally, you have a payment from the government. I'm sure that in Kazakhstan it will work. If government will provide people with this additional payment, additional external motivation, males will, I think, ask their bosses for this opportunity to take a paternity leave. And the first question, about the weak points and soft points. Yes, it's not very easy to be to promote your ideas to the governors and to be heard. But now it's the policy of our president, the policy of a hearing state. And now, since some time, it becomes easier to send your recommendations to the government. And if your friends or acquaintances with disabilities need some contacts, I can give them contacts of people who are very active in NGOs. And these NGOs protect rights of people with disabilities. And these NGOs are very visible. They participate in different kinds of meetings and decisions. And if your acquaintances will become a part of these NGOs or will cooperate them or would like to cooperate with them, I think that these NGOs would be able to present their ideas for decision makers.
Thank you. Thank you. I have just one question. How long is the men's paternity leave? Do they also get 3 years or is it shorter?
Yes, it's the same. As a father, you can take 3 years too.
Mhm. Thank you.
Anastassiya,
Thank you.
is it okay if I will post your email to the chat, so if anyone can like contact you directly? Is it okay if I will?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I give one comment? If there are people who have good studies or research findings and would like to disseminate them, please just share them with me. And if I have an opportunity, I will disseminate also information about your research. And who knows, maybe someday you can influence the situation for the better. Your ideas could change.
Absolutely, right? This is a key point of the Consortium of Gender Scholars. It's connecting scholars, right? We're interested in gender, we're interested in equality. And so it's hearing one another. And as you already made an impact on Anastassiya, that clearly you have attracted people here, people who have met you, people who have not yet, right? But now we know you. We have a question in the chat. I don't know, Imelin, if you would like, I could ask it, or if you were able to come in. But the main one is about what needs to happen to create a change to affect gender equality. So for Kazakhstan, right? And then sub-questions, right, are then, do you see that, do you think women are content with their status in society, such as being a wife or taking care of a family?
Okay, let me answer. What challenges women face to have a breakthrough in gender equality? I call it a pyramid of challenges, not like a labyrinth. It's beginning from the gender system and the gender ideology, gender stereotypes, gender labor segregation. So it's like a very, very big pile of barriers in Kazakhstan, and they cannot be, sometimes they're not visible. You are like a student, consider yourself living in the world with no limits, and you think, yes, I just will graduate and will find the job of my dream. But when you face the reality, when you start working in some companies, you can meet a lot of challenge. You can really struggle with sexual harassment, with different barriers, such as we call it like the glass ceiling or glass walls or sticky floor, many barriers. And that's why I developed the course or designed the course for masters that is called Gender Management, where we discuss our fears, we discuss challenges that our master students who have already started working, we discuss with them how to overcome this using our legislation, using our gender policy, using our gender economic trends. how to be able to cope with the household duties, because in Kazakhstan, the household duties are 2 times more than in European countries. Women have a great pile of household work, and it also a big challenge. It also prevents us from to be more effective in academia, to be able to contribute with research, to dedicate a lot of time to your work that you love. And another, I think culture, of course, culture is different and culture influences upon us. Even sometimes we do not understand how it influences. It actually affects us. And I don't share the idea that we should struggle with the culture. No, we should first understand and realize how this culture influences on us, and what are the drawbacks of this, and what are advantages of this, because there are some advantages and disadvantages in every culture, and how we can use these advantages for our prosperity and eliminate these disadvantages. Even being one person in this country, we can eliminate these challenges for ourselves. And I think for the last question, I've already said about the household duties, about the status. Yes, women try to change their status for another one, but it depends on the family. Every family has a special family model. It can be egalitarian family, dual couple career family. It can be a family where only one person is a breadwinner, a male. So we have so many different families, and we can negotiate this. We should negotiate this with our partners from the very beginning of our family life, how to position ourselves in our families to be able to realize our full gender potential.
Thank you so much, Anastassiya. I realize we're now at the top of the hour. If you happen to have time and are up for sticking around for a few more minutes, I'm sure other people have questions, or they can email you if your time is limited, which I absolutely understand. Can we give a round of applause to Anastassiya for his excellent work? Thank you so much for highlighting